I have been doing so much experimenting in the garden of late with bicarb soda hacks because there are so many great ideas online with how you can use bicarb soda in the garden. Most of them don't really work. That being said, there is one that works like magic. Before I go any further, let me just explain to you what bicarb soda is. Bicarb soda is also known as sodium bicarbonate.
It's often used in cooking to make baked goods rise or in science projects to turn that cup of vinegar into an exploding volcano. It's also natural and organic.
I can't wait to share this little trick with you. And here is a clue. It involves potatoes. But first, let me tell you what you shouldn't do with bicarb soda in the garden. It is largely made up of sodium, in other words, salt. Small amounts of sodium are really important for your plants, but large amounts of sodium are toxic. Now, this is why some people like to use it as a weed killer. But here's the thing, you can tip it on your plants. If it doesn't rain for a few days, it probably will kill the plants. Alternatively, you could just use salt and it would do exactly the same thing. But in such high concentrations, it's then going to go into your soil when it's still at those toxic levels, which is not what you want in the garden. You could tip bicarb soda on all of your weeds, or you could just pull them out. A lot of people also recommend using a solution of bicarb soda mixed with water to kill powdery mildew in some of your plants. That's all very well, except it doesn't really work unless you get it on before the powdery mildew has started to develop. So if you're looking for troubleshooting information, you've probably already developed the powdery mildew before you're trying to cure it, at which point this won't be very effective. And the other thing is, if you're going to spray your plants with it every day to prevent powdery mildew, I imagine you'd have to do it after you'd watered, because otherwise you water it and it disappears anyway. It just doesn't seem like a great system at all. But here's where this magic ingredient does work. I read a book called Garden Like a Nonno. It is so super cute, and in it talks about how a typical nonno will spend a lot of time making sure their gardening tools never get dirty and or rusty. I am not a typical garden nonno. Look how gross that is. I'm actually ashamed. I'm ashamed of how rusty and gross that is. I would never ordinarily show you this, except I want to show you what happens when you use bicarb soda and a humble potato. So one of the hacks that I read is that you can get a potato, peel it, dip it in bicarb soda, and you can use that to magically get rid of rust on your gardening tools. Don't just take my word for it. Let's see what happens. First, I'll peel the potato. Next, I'm going to fill this up with bicarb soda. Just a bit. Dip it in there. So you rub it on, make sure it's sort of on thick. All right, the whole thing's pretty much covered. I'm now going to leave it for an hour and see what happens when I come back. So let's compare. Here's the before, and here is the after. When I did the potato thing, I got a bit too overexcited and I washed it off after just 5 minutes, breaking my own rule of an hour. So what I did after that is I did some Googling to try and work out what's the point of the potato. Turns out, yes, there's some scientific benefit, but realistically, it's the baking powder that makes the biggest difference. So I made up this paste with baking soda and just a tiny splash of water, and I dabbed it on like that and left it for the rest of the hour. It did also take a little tiny bit of elbow grease, but considering the before and after, I'm really happy with that result. Hit the subscribe button. We run a garden tour every single month here in Melbourne, Australia.